I have a question for you. On your healing journey, do you ever find yourself saying, this is too hard, maybe I'm too sensitive, I can't do this, maybe my situation's different to others and this is just the way it is for me? Does that sound familiar? Well, if that's you, I am here to tell you that the language that you are using with yourself, all of this negative self-talk, is the reason why it's not happening for you. And why is that? It's because you might just be gaslighting yourself. Gaslighting means having your emotions and your reality denied. It means beginning to accept a sense of distorted reality instead of actual reality. And gaslighting is manipulative. It's a form of emotional abuse, and it can be done to you by others, but you could also be doing it to yourself. So if you find yourself uttering those words to yourself or any words similar to those, then you might just be manipulating yourself to believe a distorted sense of reality, and which is one that's just not real. Because actual reality is that everyone has the ability to change their life, no matter what the external circumstances are. We will never be able to control the behavior of others, and we cannot hold out in hope that they will change. It's up to us to look at what is within our control and search inside of ourselves to create that change and transformation in our life. All of this negative self-talk is what ends up keeping us stuck. It means that we begin to accept this false reality that our situation is unique and helpless, and that maybe we are destined for a life of anxiety, depression, misery, or abuse. Or that we're thinking to ourselves that maybe because we're highly sensitive and we feel so much that maybe we're just destined for a life of suffering. But I am here to tell you that we are the change makers of the world. The world needs more heart and compassion, and we cannot offer our heart and compassion to the world if we are not offering it to ourselves first. A client of mine who's also an HSP came to me a couple months ago wanting clarity on her job situation. She was feeling burnt out, not just from the job itself, but from the energy, the negative energy that she was getting from people around her that were projected at her every day. So when she came to me, she said that she wanted to understand how to manage that negative energy. And after one session, she began to realize that the energy wasn't just negative, but it was toxic and emotionally manipulative. And that the behavior portrayed by her work environment was in fact one of covert narcissism. With covert narcissism, it's a form of narcissistic behavior that's so subtle that it's almost impossible to identify the evidence to back up what you're feeling. It makes you believe that you're the one in the wrong and that you need to change something about yourself. Now, this client is an extremely rational person, right? So she did acknowledge that we cannot always avoid coming across difficult people and that it's not always something that's in our control, which is absolutely 100% the case. But she later learned that we can have the tools to understand how to manage negative energy, but this does not mean that it still makes it okay for us to remain in such toxic environments. Setting boundaries means taking action based on what is in your best interest. So that might mean speaking up and asserting yourself when necessary, or it might also mean walking away from a situation if your voice is not being heard. We show ourselves respect by having a clear line for what we are willing or unwilling to tolerate. When we start to gaslight ourselves by telling ourselves that maybe we're too sensitive or maybe we need to learn how to tolerate toxic people, that's when we no longer are showing ourselves that respect. So Again, I want to remind you that gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse, and it can be done to you by others, but you could also be doing it to yourself. So if you can relate to this, I'd like you to try these 3 steps to help you on that journey. So the first one is be conscious of the words that you say to yourself. If you're having those thoughts, stop yourself. Take a pause and be the one to assess if you are gaslighting yourself. Step 2 is, if it's a yes, if you are in fact gaslighting yourself, then identify how reality is different to the distorted reality that you've created. And step 3 is, once you've identified that, ground yourself. Do whatever works best for you to ground yourself. Maybe it's walks in nature, maybe it's standing barefoot on the ground, maybe it's meditating, maybe it's being around water, maybe it's movement or dance. When you feel grounded, you become more in touch with actual reality, and you become more connected to the reality that is. So if you found this helpful, please let me know in the comments below. And if you want to take this a step further, book your free discovery call with me. The link is in my bio.